You are listening to the Built to Grow podcast.
All right, welcome back to the Built to Grow podcast. I'm your host, Tim Lyons, in studio, sunny Scottsdale, Arizona, joined, as always, by my co-host, Randy Inkston. What's up, guy?
Hey, buddy.
What's happening, man? A lot of chaos in the world.
I just want to go lift heavy shit.
That's, you know.
Can we just clang and bang?
Like your shirt last week.
Yeah.
Last episode. Man.
What a
crazy, crazy time we're living in. We got, I don't have to tell anybody else. All you got to do is open your eyes and you see the riots and the COVID, and we're not even talking about that today. But you know what I want to talk about a little bit, and then we'll change the subject here real quick. What do you think about this CrossFit situation with the Glassman saying some stuff on a Twitter post and then everybody bailing ship?
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, it goes back to taking extreme ownership and accountability for the things that you say.
Yeah.
Right, wrong, and different. He made a statement, and he might not have meant things the way that it came across, but perception is reality, and we all have to kind of put ourselves
maybe he did mean to say it.
Exactly. I mean,
but he stepped down.
Yep.
So the CEO stepped down. He's been replaced. I'm sure he's gonna still own the company, but he won't be the face anymore. But I don't think that's gonna save CrossFit.
I don't think so either. I think that
it was on a downward trend anyway.
Yeah.
In regards to nothing. I don't really have much to say about CrossFit as a training modality in this particular episode, but as far as the clients we've worked with that have been CrossFits in the past, maybe affiliated, they almost all are lean. They've either gone away with it, even if they pay their affiliate fee to get the search results and everything else, they take the name off the door and they don't really say they're CrossFit anymore.
Yeah.
Even if they may be paying for the affiliation, most of them have shifted away from it, and they don't because the market has a perception of it, and they don't have control of what the market thinks of them.
Absolutely. And I remember when Rick was on one of our episodes, we talked about this, about the name CrossFit. And, if you're going to buy into a brand, that brand better be making you more money than you're investing into it. And I think Rick, I don't remember the hard numbers, but he had mentioned that for the first time this year or last year or so many years ago, more affiliates had left the brand than had gained.
Or closing doors.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And when the shutdown happened, I saw somebody posted 57 CrossFits in California alone had already closed, and that was in the first month.
I mean, when we look at businesses in the fitness industry, with those that we've worked with, I'd say that the barrier for entry running a CrossFit facility was seemingly lower than the majority of what it took to for our other facilities. I mean, it was industrial type, roll up doors and things like that. So just the cost to play the game seemed a little bit lower.
The certification was $1,500 or
$2,000.
$2,000.
A weekend to get you in the game.
And then you pay your $2,000 and you're all of a sudden a CrossFit. And
the business that goes along with that, though, I think lives and dies to the same degree. You don't have as much to stand on.
Easy in, easy out.
Exactly, right? You can't sustain for 3-4 months because you don't have another opportunity to save in income or create income. Yeah. So your bills might not be very much, but neither was the income that matched it. Yeah. And so I think that the cash flow going into the shutdown was tight for those guys, and I think it's going to be a very difficult situation for them to sustain.
Well, I think this might be a good opportunity for those CrossFits that don't agree with what was said, and they can move on and now create their own brand. And I've got a lot of ideas around that for maybe doing some type of webinar for these CrossFit affiliates that are trying to rebrand and become their own thing. Because if we've done anything, we've definitely done our own thing, and we could help there. So. That's not what this episode's about. Ironically, that was just something we were chatting about before the show. But it's a spicy topic. We could probably go into something soon on that. But this topic comes from the Business Talk with Fitness Professionals group, where our friend Bo mentioned he's having a tough time cutting ties with clients that are hard to work with.
Yeah,
and maybe not the best fit for his organization, and he's having a tough time figuring out how to navigate cutting ties with them.
Yeah. How do you go about the conversation with somebody who just isn't the right fit for your business or your service?
Yep.
I mean, I think as a whole, I mean, you could speak to this as good as anybody else. You know, this is your family. This is your household. This is your community. Mm-hmm. You know, when somebody doesn't align with that, it can cause a rift. I mean, nobody wants to be. We all know the people that in those situations, right? That have the household and the one person's that negative seed in that household. How it affects every other person. Yeah. Exactly. And from a business standpoint, now you're not only messing with the enjoyment and the desire to be there. There's an income on top of it all.
Yeah, so
that's
makes
something
it
you got
tough.
to protect.
Well, I'd probably start this conversation, this thought process, by looking at the grand scheme of what you want.
Exactly. Yep.
And it's very hard in the very beginning when you don't have a lot of clients to say no. To say no to clients that aren't a good fit. Hey, you're not a good fit. Let me refer you down the road because you need the money. You need the money. And there's going to be some clients that you know, and I'm going to be super honest with you. You probably shouldn't take on, but you should. But you will.
Yeah.
But you have to. You have to, because the next client, you don't know when they're coming in and your systems aren't set up right. And now you've just got these clients that aren't a good fit. But let's just say you're at a point where you can choose. You can choose who you want to work with. And that's a really good place to be.
Let's get a little bit harder on that, or more specific, because ideally we all want to be in, there is no slap in the face moment where you'll realize that, you know what I mean? So like for you stepping into a business, where do you feel, where in the progression of that business do you feel there might be the ability to say no to your first client? Or,
you know, for me, it was several years into the business.
Okay.
We were taking on anybody and everybody. And, you know, I was, you know, when I was in the seat where I was selling the memberships and the training clients and stuff, I felt like I did a pretty good job about not overstepping my scope. Meaning, if somebody wasn't a good fit because they had an injury or I didn't feel like we can succeed with them, I would tell them. And I was very good at that. I was like, Mrs. Johnson, I would love to take you on here, but to be honest with you, I don't think we're going to be able to help you. And I really want to refer you to Dr. Stevens, and he's going to need to see you first. And once you're cleared over there, I think then we can take you on.
Sure.
But that's not really what we're talking about. We're talking about those bad seeds
that make it into the
So they come in and they're a good fit, like on paper. But then once they get in and they're just a bad seed in the group, this is hard. This is hard. But you have there's no right or wrong way to do it. I would say you just have to do it. You have to have a conversation. I would always take it offline. Never put this in an email or never put it in a text. Get that person that is not a good fit in front of you and have a conversation.
And I would agree, because obviously text, email, I mean, we've gone through it, just the way that we all communicate. You know, I'm very monotone. Like, I could say something and mean the best.
They can screenshot that and blast you for it because they're sensitive to it. I'll give you some pretty interesting examples. This is some very sensitive stuff, and I'll give you an example of a doctor that we had in here. It was crazy, but I'll tell you that in here in a second. But what you have to do is you have to have a conversation with the person, and you have to lay it out and just say, and let's just say, for instance, this person has a negative attitude and they just bring the group down. Let's just say that's the situation, because there's going to be a bunch of different situations that come up that aren't a good fit. But let's just say this is the situation. Mrs. Johnson comes into your office. I need to chat with you. How's it going, Mrs. Johnson? How do you like it here? Those are the first questions I'm going to ask. Then I might say, listen, I'm hearing a lot, or I'm experiencing a lot of negativity coming from you in the group, and it seems to be affecting the experience here, and I really wanted to bring that up to you. And then shut up. Let them talk. Let them tell you what's going on. You may find out that they don't even realize they're doing it.
Absolutely.
And they fix it on the spot, and it's a win-win. You got this client, they realize what they're doing. They've had a bad day, they've had a bad week, they lost somebody in their family, and they're just, projecting that into the group, and they don't even realize they're doing it. And sometimes that's the best situation that can happen. Put it out there. If that's not it, let's just say it's like, you know what? I really don't like it here, blah, blah, blah. Well, it sounds like we should probably let you get out of your deal. Like, and that's not sometimes you're going to hold somebody to their agreement, and that's just sometimes you're just going to have to cut it loose.
Yeah, it's a benefit to the business to part ways, right? It's not like a burden. I mean, of course, there's a lack of that income from that individual, but at the end of the day, what it's doing to the people who are part of that community that you're protecting, that also deserve a great experience with every time that person shows up, all of those memberships are in jeopardy if this continues, right? Protect your tribe, and if you have to have a cordial conversation with one of those bad seeds, then do it. But you mentioned like the conversation, having it in person. I think that always coming from a genuine place of care. You can separate the business from the fact of what they're going through or their emotional state or what they're experiencing. Maybe that person just hasn't had somebody ask them, right? So like you start that question, and maybe maybe it's a big 180, and now they attribute you to part of that positive change. So don't neglect it as a whole, right? Like don't just cut it away.
Yeah, I think the takeaway is have a conversation in private on their time or whatever. But guys, as I'm going through this, I'm thinking of like 5 different.
Yeah.
Let me. This will be a good episode. I'm going to tell you about some crazy shit that I've had to deal with in here. Here's something that happened. This happened probably 2-3 years ago now. We had a coach here, a female coach that you either loved her or hated her. She was very smart. In fact, a professor at the college, very technical. That has nothing to do with the story, but I'm just telling you. She was very by the book, and by the book I mean rules were rules, and that's how it was. And she was starting to get into arguments with our clients. In fact, one time we had a client go around the front desk and fill up their cup with ice, and she blasted the hell out of him, like, you cannot be back here, and this and here I am in the middle of a great client and a coach that is trying to go by the rules, and I had to figure out what to do.
Sure.
In my opinion, before a COVID situation, I don't mind our clients going back there because I almost feel like they feel like it's their own home. And that's the feel that I want. So, like, the guy wanted some ice. He threw some ice in a cup and walked back, got blasted. That was one of, like, 20 things that happened. The final straw, this put me in about the most awkward position you can be in. A male client comes into the gym. The female coach has her back to him, training another client. He walks up to her and puts his hand on her shoulder and says something like jokingly, honestly jokingly. She lit him up, said that he touched her and this was disrespectful, and this is at 6 p.m. I'm already at home.
Sure.
I get a call. She's in tears. I have to come up here, and I have to fire the client. I had to fire the client because she had a perception that he touched her, and it was, of course, on camera, and you can see what he was doing, but I had to protect the team in that situation, and he made such a scene in the front of my gym. The clients were going nuts, like, they were like holding him back. He was yelling at me. His son was there. It was a mess, but I had to give him a refund, and I had to just let him go. And I said, listen, this is what I've been told, and I just can't have it happen. Unfortunately, we have to let you go. And I had to fire him. Mm-hmm. That's one of 50 things that have happened here. Okay, so put yourself in that situation. What do? It's her word against his. I can see it on the camera, and I can't hear what they're saying, but I see her react, and it's just like, oh, my God. So I had to take my team's side, and I fired the client. That was one. Here's a situation that we had a naturopathic doctor who didn't wear deodorant.
Yep.
And he stunk. I mean, there's no way around it. Mm-hmm. It was bad. In fact, it was so bad that it was affecting all the clients in the gym.
I can vouch.
You were there.
Yeah.
I had to bring him in, as sensitive as it was, and it would probably be even worse if it was a female, but this is a guy, so it's like guy to guy, like, hey, listen, my man, got a little funk.
Sure.
Got a little funk. It's affecting the room. We used to have to open doors. And it was
a big deal.
It was unfortunate. He didn't even realize. Yeah. It was just, that it was his own body odor, but Now the experience is changing for the rest of the gym, and I had to have a conversation. He fixed it for a while, and then it went back to it. And I had to have another conversation, and he fixed it for a while. And at the time, that client, to put things in perspective, was the client that had spent the most money with us up until date. Like overall in the gym, collected from one account, this man was the most highest paying client in our whole gym. And I had to tell him he stunk.
That's a difficult.
That's a tough conversation.
Well, and that's to that too. Nobody talks about that type of stuff when you're stepping into a business.
Dude, I got more. I got more. Check this one out. All right. So we had a lady signed up at the gym, very wealthy, owned a construction company, family, millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars. She joined the gym. She was a great client. She referred people, and we were having a great time. She was, a great athlete, and she just was the talk of the town. She knew everybody in town. Well, one day, she's walking into the gym, and this guy's walking out, and they catch eyes with each other. And I didn't notice any of this. And the other guy had signed up maybe a couple weeks prior, and they'd never run into each other at the gym. But she sees him leaving one door, and she's coming in another door, and she says, "Who's that guy?" I gave him the guy's name. "He can't be here." "What do you mean he can't be here? He's on an annual membership, paying $400 and something a month, just like you." "He can't be here. I have a restraining order against that man." I'm like, huh? How am I supposed to know what's going on?
Yeah.
I guess they had a lawsuit. He was another contractor or subcontractor, and they got some legal battle. They hate each other without a shadow of a doubt. They hate each other. And so I was like so new into the business, I couldn't tell him he couldn't be here, and I couldn't tell her that I was going to let him go. She was there first, but here I am in the middle of a personal legal restraining order battle between two clients that are both high-paying clients.
Yeah.
And so I had to make an agreement that she was going to be a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and he was going to be a Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. And it worked out for about a month. One day, their schedules changed. We didn't realize, and they ran into each other at the gym. And the biggest screaming battle of all time happened in front of the doors of the gym, and I'm friggin' in the middle.
Yeah.
She's screaming, crying. She comes in and yells at me, and you told me you weren't going to do it. And I'm like, I'm worried about the rest of the business, not trying to keep these two people apart at specific schedules when their schedules both changed and they were both showed up on the same day. And I had to fire the guy. Sure. I had to fire the guy because I made an agreement with her, and she was there first, and I fired him. So here we are firing people. Like, these are all the things that nobody teaches you in school and business. I'm not done. There's more. There are more situations. Here's one of the best ones. I had a guy, Mark was his name. When I say quotes, Mark.
Yeah.
And I had seen this guy out, and he's a nice guy, and he would always show up, and he would pay in full in cash, and he would buy we weren't even doing sessions, but the guy, when he gives you $3,000, you just make exceptions, right? In cash, and it goes right in the pocket, right? Or whatever in the drawer. And Mark, super in shape, lean dude, but he would always show up in a taxi cab, and he would pay in cash. Should have been a red flag. Didn't think twice. This guy, don't know him. He's just a great client. He's there all the time. He's always there. And all of a sudden he's gone. Like, where's Mark? I don't know. I called him. He's not, his phone's disconnected. I don't know what's going on. So Mark goes and disappears into the great abyss. And probably 6 to 8 months later, 2 federal marshals walk into my office and sit down. I'm like, hey, blah, blah, blah. We've tracked this man to your location. We've heard he's in the area. And he showed me a picture of Mark. I go, yeah, this is Mark. What did he do? He goes, his name's not Mark. It's something else. Yeah. And I was like, what do you mean? He's wanted for double murder in Atlanta, Georgia, and we've tracked him here. We've been trying to find this guy for 3 years.
What?
And
I remember.
And I'm trying to what double murder? So I had to cooperate with him, and I put him in touch with somebody that might have known, and they ended up catching him not too long after. But think about that situation.
Well, yeah.
In my own moral compass said, okay, this is double murder. This isn't tax evasion or something like that. I feel like I kind of need to work with these guys. You know, and it was just, that's the craziest stuff that happens. But I'm not done. There's more. There's more. We've had, you know, on some of the sad stuff, we've had several deaths, not in the gym, but we've had several deaths of clients, and not just older clients. I'm talking about young clients. There was a time where we had back-to-back suicides from young clients that were, one was an overdose and one was like a suicide with a gun. And it was very sad, and I had to go to funerals, and I had to do these things. And I've been to weddings from clients. I've been to funerals with clients.
It goes to show that, you know, the community that you've developed is a community. It's more than just a paying, you know, working relationship. I mean, personal training is personal. Yeah. You know, like you can speak in small group even, right? You can talk to, I mean, every one of your trainers knows more about your clients than probably their therapists and, you know, the people that are in that seat to be, you know, paid to speak to, because that's just the relationship that's developed over time. And ultimately, when you're forced with these decisions to save that lot of people, you more often than not are forced to do what's best for the group versus the individual.
Yes.
And it's a hard thing to do. It is very difficult to do.
Very difficult, man. There's some, and I've got more, but I won't go too deep into it. But I mean, talk about the weirdest situations. And I've told gym owners some of these stories, and they've had nothing like this. Nothing like this. And it's not necessarily where I've been in business the longest. It's just, they just haven't had these weird things happen. And they happen all different ways. And these are the things you're going to have to make decisions on. And so, like, for instance, the man and the woman that were in that legal battle, I had to have deep discussions with both. I let one down, the promise I made to her. The other guy really didn't care one bit. Like, he was like,
he was on the receiving end of that situation.
Yeah, he got blasted. He's like, now I know why I'm in a lawsuit with this lady because of that. And I had to fire him. I had to fire the guy that touched the coach on the shoulder jokingly, but I couldn't take that down that road and then have a legal issue there. So it's like the stinky guy. Everybody has a stinky guy in their gym, and unfortunately it affects the environment. You know, it's just a natural byproduct of training and sweating and hygiene and all this stuff. But if you don't have the conversation, because people will come to me and tell me how bad it was, and as uncomfortable as it was, I had to pull them aside and have a conversation, not once, but several times. And it was tough. And not only, it wasn't just a regular low-paying client. He was the highest-paying client. Of all the people, I had to have that tough conversation.
And it comes back to, but one thing that you've done throughout is when a situation is presented to you, you address it, you act swiftly, and then you move forward with that decision.
Yes.
And I think that, you know, per the question, when we got on this topic, when it was presented in the business talk group, is, you know, how do you have those conversations? How do you start that? And I think ultimately when you come from a place, like we said, if you come from a place of genuine care and you just show and you express that to the individual, even in a situation where it sucks, like you don't want to let this person go. There are ways in our situation, like when I have calls for Profit, if you're come to us and you're looking for a lead gen service, or you're looking for all of these other services that we don't do, I do my best to provide some value, either connect you with somebody, move you along a path, or recommend you reach out to certain people. You can do that even on the way out with a client. Yep. You know what I mean? We all have other business owners in our area, in our industry, that we're connected with. And if a client is not right for you, that doesn't mean they're not right for somebody else. Right. And that's okay.
And it'll come back around.
Absolutely.
Well, I've sent people to other gyms that, you know, end up closing. They come back to us as a different person, as a better fit.
Sure.
So yes, never burn a bridge.
Yep.
If but coming from, you know, like you said, genuine care and trying to find that fit for that person, like the lead gen, we've done it a bunch.
All the time.
And like we've said before, if all we did was lead gen, we'd probably be doing pretty dang good right now because it's just such a need. But, our whole philosophy on why we don't do lead gen anymore, we will do it for certain clients in special situations like our private clients and stuff. But it is normally 9 times out of 10, that's not going to solve the problem for you. And we want to solve problems, not just put Band-Aids on things. So that's why we do what we do. We go a little bit deeper than just, selling you a thing that's not going to really help you. Maybe it helps you today. Yeah. But then next month and next year, you're in the same position.
And that's exactly it. And we talked about this earlier today as well. I mean, I feel like the lead gen thing is just a cyclical problem that people are willing to shell out money because that's what they think that they need to do. But they're not addressing the problem, right? It's like, cool, my boat's sinking. Let me just put more gas in the tank because I know I can just hit the gas. Well, no, guys, you still have a hole in the boat. Yep. At some point, that's gonna, it's gonna sink. It's gonna
sink you, and you better fix it now.
And if you don't do it now,
the sooner you fix those issues, the better off you're gonna be. So those of you that are struggling, as hard as it is sometimes, just to say, hey, I just need more leads. It's, that's only gonna get you to the next month, to the next month. And why do you want to live like that? I mean, don't you want to live with comfort and knowing that the systems are all dialed in and you're not required to put fires out every single day you come to the gym? That's what I want to provide for people. That's what we do in our coaching. So yeah, I mean, definitely that's a great analogy. Put gas in the boat when it's sinking.
You've seen it 100 times, right? A boat's taking water. Let's just go faster. Yeah. No, that doesn't work in the long run.
So that reminds me of this comedy skit where these, that Mad Lib show. The guy's engine wouldn't start. Right? He's like, man, this engine's not starting. And his buddy's in the front seat. Hey man, did you check the tires? Is there air in the tires?
Your blinker fluid low?
So. Man, I'm talking about these stories of these clients. I would love to hear from you guys if you've had any of these kind of stories.
Yeah, that would be a great. Yeah, jump in the group or make a comment on one of our.
Jump in the group. Business Talk with Fitness Professionals. That's our Facebook group. I've got more. I won't go into many of them, but just those few where I had to have that tough conversation and basically fire a client or. Something would, we've had those other clients too, to Bo's point, we've had the Debbie Downers that we've had the conversations and turned them around. And a lot of times it has nothing to do with anything going on in here.
I'd say probably more often than not, right? Yeah. It's rarely what's happening in the four walls.
Yeah. And, people generally aren't happy with their lives in general. They don't like their jobs, their spouse, they kick the dog when they get home. All these things are happening. This just needs to be the best part of their day. And not only their part of the day, but your other clients needs to be their best part of their day. So if one is bleeding into the other, like the cancer you're talking about, it's affecting the group. You got to cut it, isolate it, and have that conversation.
It's something dawned on me there when you were saying that too, though, is make sure, look at the situation subjectively, because it's easy to look at a situation where, you have the stinky guy, right? Everybody is aware of this. Mm-hmm. When somebody's down or somebody has a negative, way about them, that might not naturally be picked up by everybody right away. Or maybe depending on the type of training, right? You as the trainer or the small group around you might be feeling it, but the rest haven't yet. Make sure before you assume that it's them, that you're not doing something that might be alluding to that. So being self-aware and understanding, well, maybe this person just isn't really responsive to my level of communication as a trainer, or maybe they're looking at something different. So not saying that that's necessarily the root of the problem, but be subjective, look at the big picture, put yourself in the mix on hey, how can I make this person's the best part of their day better, and maybe kill them with kindness first, or, have that conversation. So I don't think it's necessarily the problem, right off the bat.
Yeah.
Look at everything that's in play.
And let me sprinkle a little pro tip on that too, a little sprinkle.
Ooh.
Sometimes you're going to hear issues about a client from other clients.
Yes.
Sometimes they're going to come to you and say, so-and-so did this or so-and-so did that. Look at the big picture.
Yeah.
It may be the person telling you the issue is the issue.
Correct.
Be careful. Don't get stuck in that trap, because sometimes you get these little cliques and they just don't want this one person in their group, and they try to undermine them in some way and say they did something, and that's happened here too.
Oh yeah, I've just seen it play out in the social dynamic of
throw a little sprinkle of the pro tip on there just in case. Look at everything, and it might just be as easy as repositioning the schedule to where that person's in another group,
or maybe the train, like if you as a business owner, right? Maybe they don't resonate with the trainer that they're working with, and adjusting either within the same hour or a different hour a day might just change their entire perspective.
Somebody said this business was easy.
Yeah, that guy doesn't own a gym anymore.
Awesome, guys. Hopefully that helps you. Hopefully you got some entertainment out of some of the crazy stories that have come out of this place over the last decade. I know you guys have plenty of stories of your own. I mean, it's just fun times being in the trenches. So, guys, hopefully that helps you. If that is a situation in your gym, handle it swiftly, make the decisions, and move on. All right, guys, that's it for this episode. Keep changing lives. See you. Bye.